Hi, Kerry.
Hi, Isabel.
How are you?
You know what? I'm pretty good. It's been a long week, and I am short of mental bandwidth, so I am in need of some help.
Okay, well, what do you want to get out of this conversation?
Well, I think, and this is just my first pass at thinking about this, I think I want to figure out how to prioritize the work that an equity leadership team that I'm working with needs to accomplish because we have a very short time frame. And I think we have some ambitious hopefuls in terms of what this team can accomplish with my time. But I'm struggling with how to prioritize what we should be working on.
Okay, so why don't you tell me about the work and what it is you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so I'm working with an equity leadership team. And what are we trying to accomplish? I think we're trying to accomplish too much, which I think is part of the problem. So I just want to be kind of bold in saying that. Like, I think the sense of urgency that clients have right now to address issues of inequity is real. It's palpable. And I'm working with this team of, 14 teachers who are amazingly dedicated, right? They're showing up. They are eager to take things offline. They ask lots of questions. They do their pre-work. They have a sense of advocacy. So good stuff. But I think the stuff that we want to try to accomplish is too much. And so I'm struggling with how do we prioritize the stuff that is kind of, in my theory, fundamental to the process of producing viable content, right? Product, right? So it's this idea of what's the balance of process versus product. And I know you need both, but I'm kind of struggling. I've got 6 more meetings with this group, possibly 5 if we don't meet in December. And I'm just really struggling because at the end of our time together, what I don't want to have happen is folks look up and say, okay, we got together and we've got a purpose statement and we've got a focus statement and we've got a definition for equity.
So when you talk about, oh, sorry,
no,
I thought you were done.
Nope.
So when you talk about process versus product, what do you mean?
Well, I mean that there are certain, so in my practice and in the research that I've done, there are certain things that help move this equity focused work along, especially when it's kind of being spearheaded by a guiding coalition. And so and so whether we call it process or methodology, this idea that there are certain things that kind of need to be in place before we can move forward. And I think oftentimes in education, but I think just also in life, like we have such a sense of urgency and such a drive to produce something that we sacrifice process. But I know that in equity related work, there's a portion of the work that we have to do that is deeply rooted in a critical self-examination, a personal reckoning, if you will, around our biases, around our racist tendencies, around our prejudices for different genders, religions, right? All of these things. So I'm thinking about identity and I'm thinking about all of the things that we sort of have to learn as individuals to help us bypass bias and be better at what we do. And that's part of equity work. And part of the work of this team is people on the team have got to do this work. And they've got to kind of support their colleagues in this work. But then there's also this stuff like, we've got to kind of know what we're going after. And there are some school goals. There's some initiatives they're moving forward that they want to make sure have an equity lens. And we have to prioritize those. And I can just feel myself cognitively spiraling right now. I'm gonna
Great.
I'm like, I'm all of a sudden sort of paralyzed.
And so you're feeling pressure?
So yeah, I guess I am.
And so where is that pressure coming from? Like, who's putting pressure on you?
Right. That's a great question. Well, I'm putting pressure on me for sure, because I want to make sure that my client is satisfied at the end of our time together. When this contract ends, I want my client to look up and say, yeah, we actually got some work done that's going to make a difference, that's going to make things better and different for kids. And so in the back of my mind, I'm always like, if my presence with principals, with staff, doesn't translate into things are going to be better and different for kids, I'm not sure, like it means a lot to me. It's important to me that the work I do gets down to that level of student experience and outcome. And so that's the pressure I put on myself. And so when I look at the expansiveness of this task, and I look at the amount of time that's been set aside to accomplish this task, I don't think it's a realistic time frame, because I know the enormity of the work. And so I'm putting pressure on myself to deliver something that will mean something to the school, that will mean something to the kids, the families, right? And so I think it's making it hard for me to focus in on, okay, slow down,
Okay, so I think I can help you here.
Okay, thank you. I surrender.
Because there were I have several suggestions. So first of all, I just read this great article on cognitive biases and how they work against us when we're trying to time manage. So I will send you that article. It's, yeah, you don't care where it comes from, but anyway.
I don't. I just care that it's in my inbox.
I will send that to you. It's really great. It's really clever. It's things that I kind of know theoretically, but wouldn't have thought to apply in those kinds of ways. So it's really cool. I really like it.
Okay.
And it has nifty graphics.
Okay.
So that's one thing. I think the other thing I heard you say is that you're separating out process and product like they're two different things.
Yeah.
But when you talk about them, it sounds like you're pretty clear that the process is necessary for the product. So I don't know why you don't just graph that out. I mean, we could sit down and we could do like a strategy map of showing how having teachers or whoever is on the equity team pay attention to their own internal biases, their mental models of the world, their prejudices, whatever, is precursor to them changing the lives of students. Right? So it seems to me like you're separating, when you talk about them, initially you're separating them out, but then when you talk about them again, you're not separating them out. You see them as connected to one another, that one thing is prerequisite to the other, which leads me to my third suggestion, which is, why don't you write them as deliverables?
I'm not sure what you mean by that. Like writing.
Well, when we write contracts, when we make proposals to districts, we say what the deliverables will be.
Right.
You're separating out the process as if it's not also a deliverable, but there are outcomes embedded in this. There are outcomes around having the skills to recognize and challenge your own biases and mental models. That, you talked about wanting the client to be happy. It sounds like it's important to be able to say, we said that we were going to work with people on this, and we did this workshop or a session with the equity team, and we collected some feedback from them, and look, they are saying that they see themselves in a different light as a result of us having that conversation.
Right. Right.
So Kerry, I'm going to stop you right there because, obviously we're time limited here.
Yes. Yep.
Just tell me what your next steps are.
Well, I'm curious to read this piece about cognitive biases because I wonder how that might help inform my work. I appreciate what you're saying about process versus product, but I think part of my challenge is still, I don't have a sense of what to prioritize because we really don't have time to do everything that we need to do in an ideal setting. So I'm still kind of at a loss there. And then the deliverables, I actually think that, I've got a meeting with the principal in a week. And so I wonder if that's a good opportunity for me to clarify in her mind, like have her clarify to me what she's holding in her mind as what she truly believes the equity leadership team is going to be able to accomplish by June 2021. And maybe that'll help prioritize the work, but I'm not sure she knows. So
Okay, great. And I will check in with you next week.
Okay. Yeah, let's check in after my meeting with the principal.
Okay, so you'll text me when you had that meeting, and
yep,
and we can revisit. Okay.
Yep.
So I'm just going to write that under next steps.
Okay.
Kerry, meet with principal. We will reconnect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, Kerry. I wanted to write one other thing before I forgot, and then I forgot. Oh yeah, right. I remember. Okay, Kerry, we're going to do this all over again. But first of all, we're going to give people just a minute to write down any notes that they want to write about what they saw. Okay. So, yes, scene.
Take two.
Take two. Okay, so we're going to do this over again. Hi, Kerry.
Hey, Isabel.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm exhausted, but it is a good exhaustion.
Okay, good. So tell me what you want to get out of this conversation.
Okay. I need some help prioritizing the most important work that I'm doing with this equity leadership team. We've got a limited amount of time, 6 meetings, and what I sort of see as a really kind of gargantuan task. And I'm just not sure how to prioritize the work in the sense that this is an equity leadership team, and you know, I have in my head sort of a mental model for how some things that need to happen whenever we're doing racial equity work. And so I'm trying to figure out the balance between the being work, the sort of self-reckoning work that we have to do, the consciousness raising, the awareness work that we have to do with the team, and with the doing work, right? The stuff that we got to get done so that we're making a difference for kids. And there's a list in my head, and I'm struggling with how to prioritize that list so that I can help this team get some solid results that are going to make a difference for kids ASAP.
Okay. So, yeah, you know, I know I have asked you this question lots of times before, but I can't see a way to not ask this question. So
Okay.
clearly you've thought about this before.
Yeah.
Right. You've been thinking about this. So where are you stuck, right? Where's the sticking point?
Where's the sticking point? That's helpful. Because just when you ask that question of like, where's the sticking point? I sort of have this image of kind of like this list of all of these things that we typically do to kind of get these equity leadership teams up and off and running. And I think where I'm stuck is giving myself permission to look at that list and say, yeah, and I don't know that we need that. So I think where I'm stuck is in a place of looking at our methodology for launching equity leadership teams and revising it, and trusting that the revision that I'm making is coming from a place of experience, new learning, and ongoing research.
So are you talking about kind of the protocol that we would just typically use doing this work? That's what you're talking about revising?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think, yes. Which doesn't mean that protocol isn't a smart and helpful protocol. It just means that every single organization doesn't just fit neatly in. Like, I don't think, I'm really kind of struck by that question, because it's like, oh, I'm stuck because I want to make some changes and I'm not sure I can, and I'm not sure, like, how's that gonna land organizationally? And so I think it's this, and I created the protocol, right? Like, I had a big hand in that.
It's your protocol.
Yeah. And so I have to kind of take a step back from this conversation in a minute. I'm sort of going meta and thinking, okay, is this, what is about me and kind of my my organizational hang up, and what part about this is actually about the client, and the client being able to get what they need from the work that I'm doing with them.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm tracking you here. Although I'm looking at you, I'm thinking I should just shut up and let you.
No, please reframe, because what did you hear me say?
Well, so you made this very rapid pivot, right? So I was only 2 questions in, and already we're not talking about the pressing problem that you said that you had. We're talking about, as you put it, kind of the meta level. And so I just want to check in that that's real, right? That cognitive leap that you made. And I'm wondering whether you want to pursue the idea of how this applies to this particular client, or whether you want to follow that leap and talk about your thinking about revising the protocol that we typically use in this work.
Well, my gut is telling me that if I tackle the self noise, that the truth will out, right? Like, I think I'm creating a lot of noise for myself. And I think for whatever reason, I'm not trusting the new learning and the research that I've done of late enough to feel confident in saying, you know what, guys, like, this is how we've approached the work, but I want to offer up some options. I want to make an addendum to this protocol that we've kind of put out there. And I think that's worth exploring, because we spend so much time in this work talking about, like, we value mistakes, we value failure, like we're an organization that is involved in continuous learning and improvement. And so I'm not like, where's this hang up coming from of, oh, I'm scared to make a change to something that we've done. And yeah, so because I'm actually, like, if I sort of take that away, I'm actually pretty clear on what we need to do. Like, we need to incorporate all the feedback that these team members are getting in the next 3 weeks before we meet again into the purpose and focus statement. And that's going to help us collect the data that we need. It's going to give us data. 2, it's going to help us prioritize all of the areas that the school's already focusing on. And it's going to help point the way to the data that we need to collect, so that if we meet in December, which I'm going to advocate for strongly, then we're already starting on the process of looking at the data to say, okay, so what is this data showing us that we need to think about and improve upon and shift for kids at the systemic level? So.
Okay, I think I got a little lost about when you were talking about the district and when you were talking about, like, our organization.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's terribly important right now for me to understand that.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to put it back on you and say, right. So you did a lot of talking.
I did.
What did you hear yourself say?
Yeah.
And where are you right now?
Right. So here's what I heard myself say. What I heard myself say was, a protocol that stays the same year after year after year is probably not a protocol you want to follow, because it means that we haven't had time to stop and reflect and revise.
It's the laminated lesson plan.
The laminated lesson plan, the August box, right? No. So I'm thinking, you know what? Oh my gosh, I don't know. Like, I kind of scared myself from moving forward in this. I'm realizing now that I'm the problem and that I'm nervous about revising my own work, because I think somehow it's going to reflect on my thinking, my knowledge, right? And I'm now going, wow, well, yeah, it does. It means that you're growing and you're thinking and you're using the experiences that you're having with all of these other districts and all of these other school-based teams. And you're like, you know what? We've actually figured out some stuff since we started this. And so shame on us if we don't make changes. And shame on us if we don't let the next client benefit from all of the learning that we've done as an organization. Like, we should be passing that new learning on to our clients. So I'm now at a place where there are 3 specific areas that I want to tweak. And I think that that's actually going to free up space for me to just be more focused about moving, like, the sort of drafting out the arc of the work for these 6 meetings that we have. I just like this giant weight just commented on my shoulder. That's
okay. Do you want me to write down those 3 things, or do you know what they are?
No, I actually wrote them down. So I'm
okay.
good.
So you're good with that. You don't need me to capture that. Okay. So what are your immediate next steps, Kerry?
So my immediate next steps are, I'm actually going to take look at these 6 meetings and just create a little bit of a planning matrix, because there are certain buckets in this equity leadership work that sort of frame the work. And so I just want to kind of map out a trajectory of what that work looks like. And use that to guide the agendas that I craft. And actually, it gives me an opportunity to have the team chime in, and we actually co-construct the agendas, which builds their capacity even further. So instead of me being all hung up about this protocol that we've had, that I'm seeing like, oh my God, we just don't have the time to do all these things, like really pick the high leverage things in that protocol. And yeah, and do some agenda co-constructing with the group when we meet again. And I want to talk up to the principal. I have a meeting with her next Friday. So I want to just kind of share with her this aha and propose the arc of the work to her to sort of get her first nod, like, yep, is this going to get you at the end of the day what you want? Like, you contracted us for some specific stuff. Does this nail it? And then take whatever feedback she gives me and bring that to the team when we meet again in mid-November. Yeah, totally set me free.
Okay, what do you need from me?
Could you, I would really like it. I would appreciate it actually if we could just check in after my meeting with the principal next week to make sure that I haven't like lost my way in my thinking, because I think I run the risk of getting stuck in my head again. And it would be great to touch base, because I think that would just help remind me that I'm actually figured some stuff out.
So you want me to send you a meeting request? You want me to,
Yeah,
you want to text me? What do you want to do?
Send me a meeting request for, our meeting is over and I have an opening at 2. So if you send me a meeting request for 2 o'clock, that'd be awesome.
All right. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Good work.
Oh, that was good. Thank you. I have a plan.
Good job. Thank you.